Hey, what's up guys? It is I, Savage Matt Horror, and I realize now I almost never show my face on YouTube, and so I decided I would like to do, something a little different and do a little book review. For those of you who are just looking, if you want to see the book review, I'm going to put a little timestamp somewhere in the screen so you can jump and just go straight to the book review. But I felt like I just wanted to do a little introduction first, just to talk about my journey with reading and how, unfortunately, as a kid, I loved reading. I read so much. I remember reading The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, even as a kid. A lot of Goosebumps books. Of course, I'm a 90s kid, and the Goosebumps really, it was definitely a gateway thing for me. And I was watching crazy gory horror movies as a toddler, behind my parents' backs and at friends' houses. And but yeah, and unfortunately, as I got to my teenage years, it just stopped. I unfortunately, just stopped reading, and it's been almost, there was almost like a decade. I would still read a lot of articles online, but it's not the same. I missed reading fiction. I missed the feeling that I would get, which was so intoxicating and so much fun. And as a kid in school, high school, and even before that, elementary school, I just never really enjoyed it. The only things I did like was French, because my first language is French, so French and English classes, and that was it. I hated gym, hated maths. I was never very good at maths, and I loved reading, and that's what I would do pretty much all day during gym classes or whatever. I would just have a book, and so anyway, it was very sad for me to have just, I was missing that part of that entertainment in my life. Sure, watched a lot of movies, played a lot of video games, but anyways, all that to say, about a year, like over a year ago, decided to get back into reading. And this is going to sound funny, but as a huge horror fan, believe it or not, I had never read Stephen King. And I'd heard a lot. Obviously, I had seen quite a few movie adaptations, but I never read a Stephen King book. And so, yeah, it's amazing. And now at this point in my life, I've read two. I'm in the middle of reading a third one. And so I decided, well, why not just, let's do this. Let's do a little book review. This is, just me here. No fancy equipment, nothing. I'm probably going to be looking for my words a lot because I'm, English is my second language. And like I said, this is not no fancy editing or nothing, just a little book review. My feelings towards the book, and that's pretty much it. So, all right, my very first Stephen King book was the 1974 Carrie, which I know it's not the first novel or the first book he wrote per se, but it was the first I think he got published, and yeah. And so I decided, well, let's start right here. I had seen the movie adaptation, the Brian De Palma movie, before reading it. But I gotta say, I absolutely loved the book. It was a lot of fun reading it. And, at like, it's barely 300 pages. And so this was like really the perfect book for me to get back into reading. So I'm really grateful. I'm really happy that I started with this. And so we talked a little bit about the story. Personally, it's extremely relatable for me, and I'm sure for lots of people out there, because as a kid, I did, was a victim to a lot of bullying, and sadly, in high school, it even unfortunately led to me becoming the bully for a very brief period, which I'm still kind of ashamed of, but it's a thing, and so I was bullied a lot as a kid, and so I think it's extremely easy to relate to Carrie. And even if you yourself maybe never were a victim of bullying, you've no doubt seen it, whether it's at school or even at work and in the working environment. I'm sure you've seen it. So I think it's very easy, pretty much for anyone, to get into that mindset of Carrie and to relate to her. And I gotta say, even though this was like one of the earliest, like very early in Stephen King's career. I think he, you know, I'm not a woman, but I really enjoyed reading from the perspective of Carrie. I really enjoyed having a female protagonist, and I think he did a pretty good job. I'd be curious to see if other, you know, female readers or women, do you think that he did a good job at that? But I loved it. I thought it was really entertaining. Yeah, so character is very relatable. The story is kind of like it's a tragedy, really. And here's the deal about Carrie. It's got that supernatural element in there, which that was kind of the thing that was kind of stopping me from reading it a little bit at first, because I thought, for me, in my horror preferences, I love if it's something that could actually happen. I'm not a big believer. I'm not a faith, you know, I'm not a religious guy, and so I don't really believe in a lot, you know, demons, ghosts, and in this book, in this case, telekinesis. However, here's the deal. In spite of that, I think it's still a very, like I said before, very relatable book. It's easy to get into, and yeah, in spite of the supernatural elements, I think it's definitely a fun read, and it's a very human, you know, it's a human, the characters and all that, it's fun to follow along. And see, I'm just losing all my train of thought here. But yes, definitely enjoyed it. Carrie's very relatable. Now, the mother character is interesting as well, and I heard a lot of people saying how she was maybe a little cliche, maybe a little kind of predictable, and while I could definitely see where you're coming with that, and I can understand people saying that, I do have to say though that these people exist, extremists, and you know, like, I'll be honest, my wife was raised in a Jehovah's Witnesses household. She herself, my wife, never was baptized, but she did. She was, you know, that was her childhood, her teenage years. That was, and I've heard a lot of stories, and being around her mom a lot too, you know, and even I myself did go a few times to their meetings, and you know, generally speaking, they're nice people, and I don't have anything against them, but there is that sort of extremity, and that sort of obviously in the case of Carrie's mom, it's a whole other extreme, it's a whole other level. But all that to say, these people do exist, even if it feels like maybe a bit of a caricature, kind of, you know, cliche, like, but these people do exist. And I think it's I enjoyed reading the relationship, you know, the mother-daughter aspect of it. It's part of the tragedy with the ending, of course, which I'm trying not to reveal too much of the story, just in case you, like me, haven't read this book yet, or I feel like at this point almost everybody knows about Carrie and what goes on in the book. But yes, it's a very short book, you know, like I said, barely 300 pages, and so there's not a whole lot of action. It's kind of the journey before prom. Prom is really the ending of it. As opposed to the movie, though, I will say that the prom section and the town, you know, the carnage, the mayhem at the end, it's so much more intense and explicit in the book. It's very detailed, how, especially all the town stuff afterwards, it's pretty crazy. And yeah, and the ending is kind of different also from the movie and all the adaptations, and with the Susan character specifically. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of characters to talk about in here. There's a few, obviously, but I'm not going to start getting into all of them. But Susan was an interesting one. It's kind of she wants to do this nice thing for Carrie. However, you feel that she's really only just doing it to ease her own, you know, consciousness. She's feeling very guilty. And so I like her character, because isn't it like that sometimes in life? You want to genuinely do something nice for someone, but sometimes it's also motivated by a sort of feeling of guilt, or and so I like her character a lot. As far as the bully goes and all that, they're well written for the most part, but they're not all that memorable. Yeah, but anyways, I don't want to, you know, talk too long or whatever. I did very much enjoy the book, and I'm really happy that I read it. This was a nice introduction for me into the world of Stephen King. Well, you know, even though there's not a lot of connections here yet still. But it was nice to start with it. And as a lot of you may know, if you look on my YouTube channel, a few months ago I did a Carrie cosplay, which was a lot of fun. This was the first time for me doing a sort of a male to female cosplay, dressing up as a woman. But I had a lot of fun with that. If you want to go and look it up on my YouTube channel, I did 2 shorts. There's one short where I sort of show the making of, if you will, and you know, pouring the fake blood on me. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that quite a bit. And yeah, I love Carrie. I love, very relatable. Like I said, the tragedy and everything is it's kind of a classic tale. You know, the story itself is not very complicated, but it is endearing, and it is, like I said, relatable. That's what I keep saying, but it really is. And even so much so that I just had to get the Carrie Funko Pop. Very cool. Which obviously here it's, I was gonna say CC SpaceX. That's her likeness, but I mean, with Funkos, it's always a little hard to see. But anyways, she is described in the book a little differently too. She's a little chunky, with pimples, and it's a bit of a different portrayal. But anyways, she did a great job in the movie. She was fantastic. Very enjoyable movie as well. If you haven't seen that, I would recommend it as well. But yeah, so I had seen the movie before. I enjoyed the book more, but I'd say the Palma movie is pretty damn good, you know. Then if you get to the 2013, the not so good, kind of an unnecessary movie, really. Although I do like, God, I just can't remember her name. The actress, God, what's her name? Anywho, you know, I see a lot of the same common criticism was that she was kind of too pretty, and regardless, I wouldn't even really criticize her. It's just the movie itself feels unnecessary. You know, it's like, we didn't need another Carrie adaptation, or if we were going to do it, it would have been nice to do it maybe a bit more faithful to the book. Even if this was actually in certain scenes more faithful to the book, but like some stuff we've never seen, it would have been nice to have, like the Rain of Rocks, that, you know, some flashback stuff. Anyways, just kind of an unnecessary movie. And I gotta be honest, I've never seen the 2002 made-for-TV one, so that's on my list to look at. Anyways, guys, I've been talking a whole lot, and but yeah, this was Stephen King's Carrie. Enjoyed it a lot. I'm not very good at giving ratings. I feel like out of 5, if I had to, I'd give it a, I don't know, a 4, 4.5. You know, not to take anything away from it, probably a 4, but it is a very simplistic story, and the writing too is pretty simplistic, which again, it serves its purpose. Like, nothing wrong with that. I definitely am not criticizing Stephen King or nothing, but it's a simple story. Like I said, it is endearing though, and relatable. That's why it's so good. And yeah, indeed. Which I'm gonna do a little, I guess, preview for the next time I do one of the book reviews, because the second Stephen King novel that I've read a couple of months ago was Misery, and I have to say, going from Carrie to Misery, that was it's a hell of a book, and I adored this. And what was awesome about this is that I hadn't seen the movie actually, so I had a little idea what was gonna happen, but mostly I was kind of in the dark. So I'll do a separate video on that in the future, definitely. And I'm currently in the middle of reading my 3rd Stephen King novel, which is Salem's Lot. Kind of, yeah, a quarter, you know, through. So I'm a slow reader, and like I said, I've been getting back into it. It's a hobby that I love to do, and I'm just really glad to be reading again. So, all right, wow. Very different video, like I said here, but I am really glad to have kind of put myself out there and do this little video. And if you guys want to talk about Carrie, Stephen King, leave comments down below. I always reply to all comments. I love the interaction between horror fans, and yeah. All right, guys, awesome. I'm glad I did this, and I cannot wait to read more Stephen King. I'm feeling right now like I'm just gonna be going through on most of his books. I'm hooked. What can I say? All right, guys, take care. I'll see you very soon in another horror-related video. And all right, take care, guys.